There's a few things that farmers might be looking for when they're trying to access land to start their businesses or to grow their businesses. One thing is what kind of soil, of course, is in that land, what kind of quality soil is there, and what is the climate like. Another is water access. What kind of water infrastructure is there, and is there sufficient irrigation to water your crops? Another thing a farmer might consider when they're looking for land to lease or buy is what is the location. As they say, location, location, location. If you have good access to your markets and good access to the inputs and supplies you need for your business, as well as ideally being on or living near the farm that where your business is located, those are all really important. Agricultural leases are the most common way that farmers access land, and it's really, really important. I can't emphasize enough how important it is to have a written lease. If it's not in writing, it can't be enforced. If there's ever a misunderstanding or that landowner passes away or something happens to them, it's really important for the farmer that they have the security of a written document. There are a number of things that are essential to have in a good written lease. Remember, a lease is just a written contract. This is what one might look like. These are some of the elements of a good lease. The first important thing about this lease is the description of the property. It's really important that a lease say who it is that it's between, the farmer or tenant and the landowner or landlord. And then to describe carefully the property. What is the boundary of the area that farmer is renting, and where is it located? To describe that as carefully as possible and include a map, if possible, is very, very helpful in making sure that a lease is clear. One of them is, how long does the lease last? The term. Is it a 1-year lease? Is it a 5-year lease? Is it an 18-month lease? How long does it last, and on what date does it end? A less common but really important kind of lease is a long-term lease. Some farmers can make agreements for 10 or 20 or I believe up to 51 years in California. There are farmers in other parts of the country that have 99-year leases. That's a lifetime. For a farmer to have that much security is a really incredible way to make sure that you can invest everything you have into that business and have the security that you can be there for the long haul. Those are the kinds of leases that when a farmer wants to plant an orchard, for example, or something that won't come into fruition for a long time, you want to make sure you have a very secure long-term lease. Another kind of lease that's maybe more insecure is a sublease. There's a lot of people who decide to sublease from another tenant just a small part of that tenant's total leased acreage. We know of several families in the Sacramento area who might rent 40 acres, and there's one person on that lease who pays rent to the landlord on a regular basis. That person might not need to use all 40 acres, so they will turn around and lease out smaller amounts to a friend or family member or somebody else that they work with. Unless that sublease is also written, the subtenant does not have any of the rights of tenancy. So it's really important, if you're leasing from somebody that's a tenant, that you get an additional contract called a sublease that tells you how much time you have to be there and how much you're paying to that tenant. And the last thing that's really important in a lease is to figure out, how do you resolve disputes if something comes up? If the landowner and the tenant have a different interpretation of something in the lease, or if there's an unforeseen issue that arises, there needs to be a process described in the lease for how to settle those disputes. And ideally, it's a process that doesn't involve going to court, because as we all know, taking on legal action against another party can be very, very expensive and could put a farmer out of business very quickly.
บัวกันโซบัวกันยันมิงอันที่ตอนอย่ามาต้องหายเต่ามิงเที่ยวที่ตอนอย่ามาต้องหายเต่า